Residential Report Writing and Case Studies. Chapter 7. Narrative Appraisal Reports. Page 1. Chapter Overview. Not all residential appraisals are reported using pre-printed forms. In Chapter 7, we will address narrative reports, including suggested content and writing best practices. Chapter 7, Learning Objectives. Upon completion of this chapter, participants will be able to summarize the use of narrative type reports, identify tips and best practices for formatting and writing narrative reports. End of page. Page 2. The Narrative Appraisal Report. If an appraisal assignment requires a written report, but does not lend itself to the use of a form type report, it is possible that the appraiser will need to write the entire report and explain everything in a narrative reporting format. This simply means the appraiser will be utilizing all of his or her writing skills to present the facts, analysis, and reasoning used in developing the opinions and conclusions. The narrative appraisal report is used more often for non-residential properties, but it may be used for residential properties too. Common situations in which a narrative type report may be used for a residential property would include appraisals for litigation, including estate and eminent domain. Contrary to popular belief, a narrative appraisal report does not have to be lengthy. A narrative appraisal report is written to meet the client's information requirements. This report can be used to comply with either of the two written report options in USPAP Standard 2. Appraisal Report. Restricted Appraisal Report. These establish minimum requirements. The formatting of the report is up to the appraiser. There are textbooks or narrative writing software programs that provide some guidance and direction regarding the order of information presented in a narrative appraisal report. End of page. Page 3. Written report options. As we know, USPAP designates two written report options for real property appraisals. All written, which includes electronic appraisal reports that are required to be USPAP compliant, must be prepared using one of these reporting options: appraisal report or restricted appraisal report. A narrative report can be written using either of these options. The essential difference between these two reporting options is the level of detail presented. A brief description of these reporting options appears below. Appraisal. An appraisal report presents a synopsis of the information. This requires that the appraiser's work file must contain additional details, ready to be provided if necessary. This type of report requires an appraiser to summarize significant parts of the appraisal assignment. Restricted. This type of report contains less information than an appraisal report. Much of the information can be simply stated, as opposed to explaining it in summary form. Many appraisers and industry participants think that the restricted appraisal report is intended to take the place of the former one, or two-page letters, opinion of value, often provided by appraisers before the existence of USPAP. This type of report requires an appraiser to simply state the required information. A major difference between the use of a restricted appraisal report and the appraisal report is that the client is the only intended user. The restricted appraisal report is solely for the use of the one client / intended user, and there may be no other identified intended users. USPAP states the client is always an intended user. An appraiser providing this type of report is required to have all of the appropriate information in his or her work file so that, if requested or required, an appraisal report can be created from the work file. Additional information about the two report options, including examples of summarize and state, can be found in Advisory Opinion 11 of USPAP. Before we address the contents of a narrative appraisal report, let's have a short quiz. End of page. Number 1. Which statement is false regarding a narrative appraisal report? A narrative report is always lengthy. B, a narrative report is written to meet the client's information requirements. C, a narrative report can be written as an appraisal or restricted report. Or D, narrative reports are more common in the appraisal of non-residential properties. I'm going to go A, a narrative report is always lengthy. Number 2, a restricted appraisal report may be suitable for multiple users. True or false? I'm going to go false. Number 3, which of the following is always an intended user of an appraisal report? A, the client's attorney. B, mortgage lenders. C, appraisal management company, AMC. Or D, the client. I'm going to go D, the client. You scored 100%.